Here to shed some light on this upcoming election, a good friend. She's host of the eponymously named Joyce Kaufman Show. It's Joyce Kaufman right here on America's Forum. Joyce, thanks for making time and join us today in studio.
It's great to see you, JD. It's been a while.
It has been, and I know you know Florida politics better than just about anybody else. So give us in short order the Charlie Crist file.
Charlie Crist, a fake, a fraud, a phony, a guy who simply can't make up his mind about any issue, whether it's abortion or marriage or you name it. He's got every position covered at one point or another, which is kind of nasty. Part of the problem with this being the nastiest race in the country is that Nan Rich has been virtually taken out. We talk about Charlie Crist as the Democrat candidate. What happened to Nan Rich?
Well, with that in mind, what about the chances of Nan Rich to win that nomination? How would you handicap that primary race?
Well, it's done because the media has turned away from her. They don't even consider her in the discussion. There's no primary. It's going to be Crist versus Scott, which is kind of interesting. We've been here before.
Well, you understand the appeal to the extent, and maybe this is not so much a liberal media thing as much as it is an understanding of, wow, this looks delicious in terms of a plot line and in terms of holding interest, because you got the former Republican governor who left the party when Marco Rubio ended up with a Senate nomination that he coveted on the GOP side, and now he runs as a Democrat. And Charlie Crist, despite what you had to say about him, still with a lot of the electorate, he is regarded as a hail fellow well met, someone who is engaging personally. And quite frankly, the current governor, Rick Scott, has his challenges in that fashion. Let's take a look at a Quinnipiac University poll. The question asked of Florida voters, do you have a favorable or unfavorable opinion of Rick Scott? And you see the unfavorables, Joyce, lead the favorables by 5 percentage points, 45% unfavorable. Now, having run for public office, I can tell you when you get into the 40s, when you're at about 43, that's a danger point. Is this going to hurt Rick Scott? Does it make him very vulnerable to keep the job as governor of Florida?
Well, why don't you pull up Crist's numbers right now, because they're not that dissimilar. They're just always unfavorable for both of them. So it's two guys who apparently nobody really likes who are running for the governor's seat. It's going to matter now why he left the governor's seat once before. This is going to be the kind of campaign that if Scott loses, it's simply based on money, because there's no way that the voters are going to select a man who left the governor's office for a failed Senate bid and now wants it back. Like, do you like the job? Do you need the job? What's the problem?
As a new Florida conservative, Joyce, having come into this state, I got to tell you, I appreciate Governor Scott's economic record.
It's excellent.
What concerns me was this whole notion going to the legislature saying, oh yeah, in-state tuition for illegals. Does the governor jeopardize his position with the base of the party or the hardcore conservatives, or is this state so Jeb Bush friendly that Republicans will overlook that in-state tuition for illegals?
Yeah, unlike me, it's very Jeb Bush friendly. And I think they will. They will ignore that. First of all, it's not like Charlie Crist has the opposite opinion. So it's who do you vote for, the worst or the worser?
Now, you mentioned Nan Rich earlier, and I just got to return to that because in Hawaii over the weekend, in heavily Democrat Hawaii, we saw Neil Abercrombie, one of my old colleagues in Congress, who had all the money and all the organization and all the support of Barack Obama, lose that Democratic primary to a long-time state senator who was not given much of a shot. I realize the distance, both geographically and philosophically, between Florida and Hawaii, but is there any scenario for a Nan Rich upset in this Democratic primary?
There always is. She's close to Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie wields an enormous amount of power in this state. It could come to pass that in the final analysis, she'll pressure all of the captains into getting a vote out for Nan Rich. I happen to like Nan Rich. She's a liberal, but she's honest. She's always lived up to her promises to the people. And how can we vote for a guy like Charlie Crist who didn't honor one single commitment he had to either his party or his next party or his next party or anybody individually?
You mentioned Debbie Wasserman Schultz, another of my former colleagues in the Congress, the ongoing chairman of the Democrat National Committee. Has she been vociferous in support for Nan Rich, or is she sitting out this race?
She hasn't been as vociferous as I thought she would be, because Nan is one of her, cadre of women. So I was surprised, but it's not over until it's over, as you said. And while I don't chalk up much for Nan Rich this time, I certainly hope they give her the respect that she deserves in the Democratic Party. For Charlie Crist to take that nomination, it's really ludicrous.
Well, you don't have to spend much time in Florida to see that the attack ads have started between the two candidates. Does that set up a situation where, with a lot of voters, it'll be a pox on both your houses? Or is this necessary to really prime the pump, both for turnout in the primary and moving ahead to the general election?
I love it. I think negative ads work. I think both of them have some good ads out already. I think the deposition website they put up on Rick Scott, revealed the deposition. It's very effective. And I think that there's a great, Charlie Crist is fun to make fun of. And if you get negative with him, for the most part, I think the public will enjoy it.
Well, I've just got a sampling of this as a new Florida voter, and I've been through some tough races before.
Indeed,
but the stuff we're seeing right here is something that I'm not even accustomed to. But you bring up a point in our final minute. It's worth amplification for all the talk that, voters hate negative ads or so-called attack ads. They really do work.
Absolutely. I've used them myself in campaigns, and they do work. And I think you just have to be honest. If it's not a lie, you should tell the public the things about the other person that you find either unacceptable or just politically incorrect.
And of course, what also happens is, I would be quick to say, well, these are comparisons. They may be toughly worded, but comparisons nonetheless. And when you stack up campaigns, that's what they are, comparing and contrasting two candidates. Joyce Kaufman, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I hope you'll come back and visit again real soon.
Thank you, JD. A pleasure.
Good deal. Well, you got Joyce and her take on what's going on in Florida. What's yours? Very interested in hearing from you. Why don't you tweet us your comments at NewsmaxTV, # America's Forum. You can also go to newsmaxtv.com/comment. And don't forget Facebook. Our faces coming back when you come back.